Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF Everything in That Shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF Everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And it's Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Whoa, boom, explosions. We're
All
doing
around.
Aquaman.
Water
a movie
explosions.
that has a lot of explosions.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Underwater and above the sea. It's a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. You're not safe anywhere from an explosion in this movie.
Mhm.
Also, not that it matters to anyone. I almost said that I was Ben during the intro. It was a real bummer of a moment for me where I forgot my name.
It's a nice reminder about how important identity theft is.
Yeah. Please look into it.
It's actually not funny, but I mean,
No.
we recovered.
All right.
Stuck the landing, as they say. Today we are doing Aquaman.
Yeah, we're revisiting Aquaman.
Yeah.
I have to say, I haven't seen the movie since we reviewed it the first time.
Me neither. Like all the other movies we had reviewed, I had at least a couple more viewings in between. Well, the majority, I will say.
Yeah.
This one, genuinely, between theaters and now, not one single rewatch. So this was fresh eyes on it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I have a take, it's I wish I liked this movie.
Yeah.
I think so much effort is being put in. Visually, it seems like it's got to be cool or something. I don't know. But it just does not. It's just a movie that does not work for me.
No. It doesn't click.
But
Everything feels out of place. That's the problem. Everything feels out of place. They tried very hard. You're right.
Yeah, like I have to acknowledge that it's not that it's like I feel like I don't remember what I gave Black Adam, but having seen that freshly, this feels like at least way more of a take was like they had a vision, I should say. There was a very clear vision for this movie, even if it doesn't work for me. And it feels like that's what's realized, for better or for worse.
Yes.
Versus a movie where it feels like it was made by committee. I have to give it points for that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like this, you can tell one singular person made this. It's James Wan.
Yeah, I mean, we know not one singular person made it, but it feels like more of their vision made it into it than not.
Yeah, it's definitely more cohesive than, you're right, by committee. And there are elements of this that I'm like, oh, okay, this is genuinely really, really cool. And then there's like, this is way too convenient to be happening right now. This is just ridiculous.
I don't know. I think what it comes down for me is the performances.
Yes.
I think that's why I don't quite click with it. I think if everyone was on Jason Momoa's level, it would be something. But I feel like different people are in different movies. Like, as much as I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen, it seems like he could have been saying those lines to anyone. It never really mattered who he was talking to. He had the same intensity. Maybe his dad. Maybe he had a bit of softness with his dad. But it just felt like he could have done all his scenes by himself for the way he comes off. And like Ocean Master felt like I feel like he was at least with his scene partners, but it just felt like, I guess, one note is what I'm trying to get at, and not in a like. Yeah, I mean, I guess there is no good way to be one note, but like it was very like obviously one note, which didn't feel as good as other times maybe where I was fooled by a one note performance.
Right. There's no developments, right? It's just an intensification, a growing hate. It's like the first time he sees Aquaman in that opening submarine kind of scene, he's like, "Oh, we were bound to meet." This is
Like
like,
Black
and
Manta, right?
yeah, Black
Yeah.
Manta, yeah. Before he gets the idea of calling himself Black Manta,
Yeah.
but he, it's the idea of like, oh, we were supposed to meet, all this kind of stuff. He was just intense from the start and just
Yes.
constantly intense.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right. Like every single scene.
he's like, I don't need to be paid. Killing Aquaman is my thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
you gotta go somewhere from there. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like his last line is still like, eh, I'll do whatever you want. Just tell me where I can find Aquaman so I can kill him. I'm like that's the last.
Are we talking
thing
about the post-credit scene?
Yeah, like that's his,
Yeah.
I mean, his whole. I feel like every scene is around just let me kill Aquaman. Unless he's in front of Aquaman, then it's I'm gonna kill you.
Well, I mean, I do understand his motivations very, very clearly.
Yeah, I can understand someone's motivations, but like for Thanos, no, you know what? I'm not gonna compare Marvel to DC.
Yeah.
I think in a movie that works well for me with a villain that is pretty much one note, and I know people don't like this performance, but like the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor, like his one note is, "Hey, fuck Superman for not being as smart as me, but everyone still respects him." That like a lot of the scenes boil down to that, but you get different flavors of that. You get like he will be calm at some points and then intense at other. Like you get some kind of dynamic performance out of him. And I'm specifically using that because this is all part of the same Snyderverse era. Like it's all under him. So I won't compare it to anything else that might have come outside of that. So to me, you could argue that's a one note performance, but at least you're getting different octaves of that one note. This, as we've both said, was just like, yeah, like he's gonna show up and he's gonna be, and sure, I understand why the guy killed his dad by being like, "Hey, you killed innocent people. Take it up with the sea. I'm out of here," and like fucking them up. Yeah, like it's not like I don't understand. It's just if he's gonna have this much screen time, again, he's a black character. He's an actor I like. I'd like to see more from him than what we get.
Yeah, I'd like to see his character be able to do more with it. You know what I mean?
And so I'm hoping the sequel, which we haven't seen. Obviously, I'm pretty sure this will come out before we see the sequel.
Right.
We haven't seen it. It's not like I know anything. I'm hoping he gets more to do in that since he came back. But I'm even talking about like Orm Ocean Master. Like you'd think that a scene where like Aquaman says, I was so looking forward to meeting you when I was a kid, knowing that I had a brother and you're just a dick. I'm just like, yeah, it kind of just lands flat for me. I didn't feel anything because to me, I'm just like, I don't know, like they don't know each other. Who cares? It's not like he had like a moment to think like, oh man, like I finally get to meet my brother. It was just like they meet and they don't like each other, and yeah, I don't like. What do I care if you call him a dick at that point? I don't feel like you lost anything.
No, I just felt like that at that point he was like, oh, he's just playing mind games on him right before a fight. Good for you. Like that's a good strategy. Like that's all I read into that. But I mean, you're right. It like the dialogue, if that was delivered at the end of the movie, for example, it would have
just
carried
more time with them
together, more
together.
weight. Yes,
or something different other than obviously they don't like each other.
Yeah,
like he went into it being like, yeah, I'll kill him, and we already know what Orm's doing. But I'm just saying, like, even if we saw Orm try and play like, hey, I'll try and get him on my side, and maybe try. And I mean, it would make a long movie already longer, but at least I would feel something when he says something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because you don't spend any time with Orm as a kid to understand
this fully formed thing. I was just like,
exactly.
Wait, how is he like? I'm not saying the movie didn't explain. I'm just saying like because he just shows up as an adult. I was like, what? Like, so they didn't spend any time together. Like, there is no real connection.
Yeah, because
it's not like they were friends as kids and now they're coming back together. It's just like, yeah, as he said, like he's like, yeah, my mom had you with your dad. We never met, and you're a dick.
And she's and from Orm's perspective, I understand his hatred. I understand it all. Like it's too simple to not understand.
Effort is put into the movie. There's no real story beat where I'm like, I don't understand that.
No,
but
because
that
it
doesn't
beats you over
mean
the
that it
head with how
worked.
blatantly obvious it is.
Yeah,
It is just so blatantly obvious what they're doing. There's no subtext. There's nothing there, and
that
that's
might
kind of
be it
one.
too. There's
Yeah,
not a lot of
it's
subtext.
there's no subtext. There's nothing to read into. It's just literally like the story, which some
Which,
people could be like, I like more, but to me, I'm like, there's no. It lacks the depth
well, I mean,
for me.
it's this Indiana Jones-esque like treasure hunt movie, right? So maybe they're trying to play up the arch performances to
Sure.
match that kind of serial thing.
Mhm.
That doesn't make it bad. I'm just saying it didn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that's my point. It's not like, oh, this movie's bad. It's just not my style. And in addition to that, I can at least see that the effort was put in. As you said, like every time I have a kind of like a knock against the movie, like, yeah, but they explain this, and I'm like, yeah, that's true, and that's good because obviously that's where the effort comes in. That
Mhm.
nothing is just happening, and you're like, huh? You're like, yeah, that makes sense. Even if it's not executed well, it still makes sense. There's a logic to this.
Yeah, it's very clear to me that they have thought the characters through, the psychology of them and what they would genuinely do and all that. But you're right. It's because as an audience, we don't get to spend any time with it. So the thing with Orm, to me, is that his whole motivation, his whole drive is the fact that his mom is dead because of Arthur. And the whole idea of we should have seen what that was like to get pulled away from her at the very least, to be, you know what I
I'll be
mean? It
honest,
would
I
have.
don't think that's his issue. I know what he says. I maybe that's
Sure.
where I was wrong. That the maybe this is the subtext. My feeling was the same way Arthur might be trying to play mind games. I think Orm's doing the same thing.
Oh,
Of
he's definitely trying.
your because to me, I feel like he's like, fuck you and your mom. Realistically, you're like your mom had sex with a surface dweller, so she's nothing to me.
Yeah.
It's me and my dad against you and your mom. I
Hmm.
think is the thing. I don't, and
Well,
you're right to say
that's
like
fair.
that still would be a thing to be separated from your mom, but I think he always felt that separation, and I think he's probably like good riddance to her being gone.
Well, he has to be, right? I mean, they, and again, beating you over the head with it. Mara even goes like, well, one thing they're not is forgiving. So like, she's like, I betrayed everything when I helped you and all that kind of stuff. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. So that's why, like, oh, they're stubborn as hell. Cool. That's part of their culture. Awesome. Again, beating me, like, I felt like it was just giving me all the things, and I didn't have to read into anything into this movie. It's it's so,
Well, I
you know.
certainly didn't care to. I don't know if there is nothing to read into, but it just I wasn't engaged enough to read into anything.
Well, even when I tried to, I couldn't find anything more. I mean, like I said, like I finished watching this thing like 2 hours ago and
Hmm.
I thought about it, reflected about it, and I'm like, there literally is no subtext here. This is just
There's not a
an
lot.
Aquaman movie. It's not a lot. There's no, like, how like in Batman, there's like layers of economics and like poverty and other socioeconomic status, and like that's heavily written into why Gotham is the way it is, right? So you understand why Gotham is the crime, right? So you understand that. But in this, it's all just there. It just it's given to you, and we're here, and this is what this is. And oh, this is the way of, like, it's weird. It's a weird thing. But I do like how they were like, well, how do we do this movie after he got the mom's trident, or in the Justice League movie fight,
Right. He came
and
down
still
and
make
got
it so
merited
that,
to.
yeah, and still make it so that he's new to Atlantis. Like, I appreciated the fact that they were like, oh yeah, because he's pissed off, he doesn't want to be a part of you, so he never, like, I like that they explained that. That felt like, okay, the amount of attention I deserved, that most things in this movie deserved. Like, just
Yeah,
move on. But they
sure.
kept beating me over the head with it because they had the
I
time to. there's
I
there's
mean
that.
nothing about it tying to Justice League really. The
No,
first
they
time
just,
didn't really work for me, and this time didn't matter because
yeah.
none of it matters. But like I think what worked for me the first time, if I remember correctly, and what worked this time was for whatever reason, the mom and the dad, like Arthur's mom and dad, I
Mhm.
was kind of like, yeah, I hope they see each other again. Like that would be
Yeah,
nice.
that is
I
nice.
felt like that opening scene, I was really like, for whatever reason, just on board with their love story. I was like, yeah, good. Good for
I,
them. I
I
hope they
thought
get
that,
back together.
yeah, I thought that was better writing than most of the movie.
That that worked for me. I liked his connection with his dad. Like I liked the scenes together.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think everyone benefits from being in a scene with Jason Momoa other than honestly the villains. I don't like just because they're so one note that I was like they could be in a scene with anyone. It doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
I
It's
actually preferred like Orm with Volko or something like that. Like where there
mhm.
could have been, there isn't, but there could have been some kind of like, does he feel betrayed by Volko? Is
Mhm.
Volko torn between Orm and but you like the movie is already like no, he's on Arthur's side. There's no thing, and I don't even really get the sense that Orm thinks that Volko isn't on
Mhm.
Arthur's side. But
It
those scenes at least have elements of I could get swept up in that if I wanted to.
mhm. Like
So those are, I think that's good. But I think, yeah, I do think that unironically, Jason Momoa heightens certain things in the movie. Just
mhm.
like
Yeah.
at first, I don't know if I really liked the we could have just pissed on it moment, but yeah, this time watching, I was like, that's a funny moment. That's just a genuinely funny reaction of
Yeah.
him because Mira is so serious and like, God, I betrayed everyone I've ever loved, and they're never gonna, and then him just being like, you did all that magic stuff, and I could have just pissed on this thing. Like, that's funny. And I was like,
Y-
yeah, there we go.
it-
And that's not me being like, oh, I wish there was more Marvel humor. It was just someone wasn't going to 11 with their intensity in a moment, and so it felt nice
yeah.
to feel like someone was actually experiencing the moment instead of just like walking through it,
Mhm.
sleepwalking through
Mhm.
the moment.
Because if yeah, I like what you're saying because it feels like all the characters are like, okay, we have to get to the next thing. We have to get to the next thing. They're
Mm-hmm.
never actually in the moment. But Momoa and his dad are
Yes.
the only ones that are actually in the moment in this movie.
Yeah,
And
and there's a nice moment. Again, I liked it in the first time we watched it, where Mira, like an idiot, eats flowers and then hands them to Arthur, and he doesn't make fun of her. He's not like, no, not like that, like in a normal. And I'm not even saying a bad movie, but just you would expect the beat to be him being like, no, 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 don't do that in a montage. But he's just like, whatever, man, like, and then eats it just
yeah.
like she did. And that's what I meant by like characters get to benefit from being in scenes with him because
Mhm.
it's him like being present in the moment and being like, yeah, like she doesn't know any better, like, and it's not gonna harm me to eat these flowers like this. Go, like, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Seeing that soft side of him and being like, oh, let's make her feel um comfortable here and
Yeah, or
validated
just
instead
yeah,
of
we
like
don't need
make
to
her feel
alienate her
like
right now. Yeah.
exactly right. Like she's obviously experiencing this for the first time. She points it out multiple times in that
Hmm.
scene, and she points it out op- optimistically. That's
Yeah,
a
like she's
very,
having a
very
good time
important thing.
because she's
Yeah.
never done it before. Yeah.
So why would like for him to be like, oh no, you're doing it wrong? Is just like, wait, why would? Because and here's the thing with flowers. As an outsider to this world, if you got flowers, you're like, well, what do I do with these? Like,
Yeah, like I'm assuming they're like, I can eat seaweed, so why would I not
yeah,
eat
like
this?
what do I do with this? In most situations, like, oh, this is pretty, this is nice to look at, but it's gonna be gone in about a week.
Yeah.
What do I do with this? Like, it's weird, but I like that he just accepts it and just makes her feel, good there.
Yeah. I think any moment where it feels like, and I know that in the Snyderverse the whole point is these are gods
Yes.
among men. That's not my style. So anytime you can actually just have a nice human moment with these characters is good for me.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think I already said the negative thing about Mira of like I thought she was taking things way too seriously.
The mirror thing is it's
Even some of her
like
line
watching
deliveries.
it's like watching Tara Reid in Sharknado. Like she takes that role very, very seriously, and there's such a big cringe factor to it. And here, I wanted her to just have a little bit more fun with the role, the character. No,
I
it's
think
hard serious all the time. And
so.
I get it. They're
Yeah.
preventing a war, a global war. I get it. But like it went from hard serious to like, oh, I'm on vacation in Greece very
So
quickly.
for me, like I'm never. If people listen to this show more than just this episode, they know like I'm not really like, oh, this movie needed to be shorter or this like. If anything, I'll say the movie needed to be longer, no matter what. As I already gave an example of where it could have been longer, but
Yes,
I think whenever I feel like a movie is too long, it's more what I'm saying is they didn't use their runtime effectively.
I agree.
And I think we're constantly bumping up against moments where it's like, what? Let me know what her lived experience is. Like, so yes, obviously, I can sympathize with the concept of you went against everybody
Mm-hmm.
to save Aquaman, and now you feel like you can't go back to your home, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. Because yeah, you say that, and obviously, if anyone has any kind of sympathetic powers, they'll be able to be like, yeah, okay, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know why she made that decision. Like, it feels like before that they've constantly made her kind of antagonistic against Aquaman, Arthur. Like
Yes.
she like is begrudgingly being like, oh my god, like I'm doing this because of your mom, I'm doing this because of your mom. And so like,
Yeah.
yes, I understand that she might want to help, but like the way she just so blatantly is like, it's me helping him, so you'll know that you can never like trust me again. I feel like I would want a little bit more on how she came to that, like the decision to like out herself in that way, because it
Mm.
seemed like she was able to save him without being visible, like, but then she like comes with the ship and
Mm-hmm.
is like visible to everyone and is like, all right, we're going now. And so it was just like, for me to not feel like, well, the movie needs to do this so that we understand why she's just going to stick with Arthur the whole time. I need to just have a little bit more, and even if it's like her frustration with not being taken seriously because she's the daughter of this king and everyone just defers to him, or something that makes her be like, you know what, things do need to be shaken up anyway, so I'm going to help Arthur and make a stand here, instead of just it just happens. And obviously I can understand that it needs to happen for the movie to keep going, instead of feeling like, well, that's the logical next step.
Yeah, and I mean, there's moments throughout the whole movie where she just delivers it to you through dialogue, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
her motivations, and then like even in the plane, she goes on to explain like why she did it, and she delivers some dialogue like to believe in something so much that you have to sacrifice the
Yeah, like
things that you
even it goes against your heart or something like that.
even
Yeah.
if it goes, yeah, like that kind of thing in the plane. I think it was, but yeah, again, we're told it and all this kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff, but this is a global scale thing that they're doing. But I just don't think they make it well known enough that it is global scale. It's very
Or
difficult,
I just don't know why she cares on a global scale. Like I understand she cares about the tradition
Mm-hmm.
of what the Queen Atlanta brought or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but like, yeah, I think that, as I said, nothing in the movie is me being like, what the hell, how come that happened? Like I get it, it's,
Yeah,
as you said, they told me, they didn't show me, but
yeah.
it just feels like I'm constantly at odds with the movie because I would like a bit more humanity or just like experience with the characters. Like
Oh, I agree.
that's why it's unfortunate with Black Manta, because you see from the beginning, like, oh yeah, that makes it. You see how close he is with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
That works almost immediately as well. Like where you're just like, yeah, he's close with his dad. They have a good relationship. He's the only person he's soft with.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in that scene, you already talked about how intense he is, but at least with his dad, there's like a smile there when he goes like, I don't need that knife or whatever. Like they have a nice relationship, so you
Mm-hmm.
understand like, okay, Aquaman ruined his life and destroyed his world
Mm-hmm.
in the form of making it so that his dad died, or at least not helping to save his dad, which
Mm,
is an interesting choice
it's
for a superhero. But like,
yeah.
but like, so then his anger throughout the movie is explained, and I get it. It's just, you know, give him some levels.
Mhm.
Whereas, yeah, for Mira, I'm just like, I just know she has to be his sidekick, so whatever, I guess. Like, I'll just go with it. It didn't feel like as because yeah, like even in Justice League, they did a better job of like they're fighting together now out of necessity. Like he's just made it awkward for her, so they're gonna fight together. And
Yep.
then Steppenwolf shows up. So it's like, well, yeah, I don't even know who this guy is, so we're fighting together. But like in this, I'm just like, I don't know, like what? Unless you're just gonna be like straight up like, hey, remember last time? Like we formed a bond, so yeah, I'm working with you. But that's not how the movie works. The movie is kind of just like her being like, you're an idiot, I don't like you, but like we have to respect your mom.
Well, I mean, the issue I find with the movie is that the character motivations are so juvenile that it's just like, am I really watching this? Because I'm like, this is like how schoolyard crushes are like. Like, I'm gonna tease you, I'm gonna neg you, I'm gonna do all that kind of really childish, immature crap related to courting. Um, whomever. It's so childish to me that I'm like, oh, this is how it's playing out. This is how it's playing out. She likes him. This is just she doesn't know how to show it. She's a princess,
See, I didn't
isolated.
get the sense that she liked them.
That, I mean, that's just how I saw it. I'm like, this is just extremely childish. And what do children do when they start doing that? They like each other. And I'm like,
I
okay.
didn't get the sense she liked them. I think that it was the common trope of, hey, they went on an adventure together, so now they're in a relationship by the laws of cinema. But like, I don't. If I
By the
thought
laws
she
of
liked
cinema.
him, if I thought she liked him at the beginning, this movie would make a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
Nothing about her performance lets me know that she's hiding a crush behind. I think she's just like, you're an idiot because you are rejecting this thing that I would love to have, which is
and or that is just so
lineage to
fundamentally
Queen
important.
Atlanta. Yeah,
And not
like,
only that, it's just fundamentally important for the goddamn world. It's like the idea of like, hey, why do you want to save the galaxy? Because I'm one of the idiots that lives in it. It's like, why aren't you kind of getting on the same page? Like, this is all our fight.
yeah,
Why
like I
aren't
think that was her frustration,
yeah,
and not necessarily like, oh,
it's
how
not
do
a
I show my
crush,
like, yeah,
but like a crush develops through that. And I'm like, okay, whatever, because it's just so childish to me that I'm like, I guess. But you're right. In terms of how we're looking, the lens of how we're looking at this movie, I'm like, nothing on screen leads me to believe that there was anything forming there. It
No.
wasn't like the only exception being, okay, the thing in Greece or Rome where they're like,
Yeah,
okay,
I think they're in Italy.
that's the only thing that's like the rose thing. Like that's the only thing. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
compared to
as I said,
Orm, who she was engaged to or betrothed or
yeah, but
whatever,
that at
that
least in
is
that
just like,
performance, I know she's just like, ugh, I got
oh, I get
betrothed.
it.
I don't like, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but I'm like just by comparison, it's like, oh, he softened me up just enough. Like, oh, I guess, sure, I like this guy now. Like, you're right, it's not strong writing, but I can see it just by comparison of what she left immediately. So, rebound. Aquaman's a rebound, dude.
yeah, I feel like, yeah, even if we dug deeper into the Orm stuff with him and Mira, it would have been more interesting. Like,
Yeah,
because
there's nothing more than just arranged
immediately after
marriage
she
for
leaves, he's
sure.
like, yeah, kill her, and the dad's like, well, you can't kill my daughter, and he's like, ugh, and Volko has to
Oh,
be
I
like, look,
guess.
you can't piss her dad off when you're trying to win people over. It's not like, and yes, you could be like, it's because he's his ego was hurt that she left, but I don't think it is. I think he's just like, honestly, get rid of her. I don't need her.
I think he's more concerned with his public image at that point, like his claim to the throne. It's just like,
Or is it? Oh, I thought you were saying like, as in like, he can't show weakness just because they were betrothed. He would have to get rid of her because that's like the Atlantan way.
yeah, exactly, because of like it seems to me, because obviously this is a character that's deeply insecure and
I mean, I
very
don't know that he is.
I mean, the way he saw his mom and broke down told me he was like, oh yeah, everyone's dealing with issues here, mommy issues. That, like, the thing that is funny about this is like when She-Hulk pointed it out, it's like, why does everyone have daddy issues in the MCU? I'm like, you know what? Everyone in DC has mommy issues, except for Superman. He's got daddy issues. He's got a healthy relationship with his mom, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Yeah.
I mean, Flash, mom killed, Batman. Okay, Batman, both parents killed. Aquaman, this I don't know the lore to it, but according to this movie, based on what this movie is like, yeah, mommy issues. It's hilarious to me. There's a through line here. It's funny.
Yeah, I'm not too sold on the insecurity of Orm. I think
I am.
He's very right to be like, this is a very tenuous grasp on power. So to that extent, I can see him wanting to shore things up. I don't know if that makes him insecure so much as aware of the situation.
Sure.
And then the mom thing, I don't remember him bringing out. I'm not saying you're wrong, but to me, it's like, okay, that's just new information then, because nothing about how he was acting before felt like he had a real connection. But you saw it, so I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying,
yeah.
To me, he just felt, as I said, like the one note thing. Like he don't care about anything other than the power. Like who says it to him? The king, when he's like, "Oh, you just want to be Ocean Master. That's what your thing is." And that, to me, that was all he cared about all movie. That's the only thing that would cause him to be any different than he was acting. He doesn't care that Mara left. I don't think he cares. I think it's easier for him that his mom left. And yeah, now he can just be who he wants to be.
You know what? To me, Orm's character, he did complain about the mom enough times for me to be like, okay, there's an insecurity here. Like that did connect with me. Like when he talks about her right before the Ring of Fire fight and all that kind of like in to Momoa and all that kind of stuff. Like it did connect with me that he's got an insecurity there with his mom. It just I saw it there because especially that final scene. And of course, yeah, he was just defeated by Aquaman in front of all his friends, and he looked like a clown. And then his mom came. So yeah, maybe there was residual feelings carried over in seeing his mom, but the dialogue that Nicole Kidman delivered to him, it was just like, this is a really, really kind way of saying you fucked up.
I remember what she said to him.
I love you, both of you, but you have been heavily misguided or something like that. I'm like, this is a kind way of saying you fucked up. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
I mean, yeah, I guess that aspect worked for you. None of that really landed with me. I don't think it was there in the performance. So maybe it's just what they're saying conveys that, but nothing about the emotionality of how they delivered that, and it led me to believe that. Everything led me to be like, oh, this guy just doesn't care. He just wants to be Ocean Master.
Right.
Just the same way Black Manta just needs to kill Aquaman.
Right. And to me, one of the biggest things is like, because this comes immediately after a fight scene and the action scene, because I will give credit to this movie, and I want to talk more about the positives that I found in this movie, which is basically only one thing. The action scenes are really, really well done. Like, it's really well done. I was on my seat the entire time during that final fight.
Good. Yeah, I don't think all of them are great, but
so
I like
I
like
the
Queen Atlantis fighting
thing
at the beginning.
Yes, that was a lot of fun
through Italy.
Yep. Do I keep saying Greece? It is Italy, isn't it? It is Italy. Yeah, I'm an idiot. It's Italy. My bad. The fights to me are really, really good. And I like the design and the atmosphere of like Atlantis and all that kind of stuff. But it's very clear where they drew inspiration from. But that kind of stuff does work for me. So the reason why I paid attention so close to that is because I'm like, I know the movie's wrapping up and they're getting to their punchline, so to speak. But the idea of like, oh, Orm's giving me a different version of himself right now. That's interesting. And this is immediately following a fight scene. That's great. Because it kept my attention, and then it drops off slowly afterwards, which is why the stuff in the desert really doesn't work for me, except for that line of, yeah, we could have just peed on it. I'm like, yeah, that's genuinely funny. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
As well as his like the whole like, did she jump out of a plane without a parachute? And he goes like, yeah, redheads, right? I'm like, yeah, that's kind of funny, I guess.
I mean, that part didn't work for me, but yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, just
I was like,
yeah.
What?
It's very dismissive, but in stereotypical. But I mean, like,
Well, just
it's
why it
just
doesn't
his
work for me
reaction to
is
it.
that like, what are they doing on like, what does that person on the plane think they're doing? Like, it's just another like, I know that that's Lee Wanell, like that's the guy who made Saw with James Wan. He made like it's a moment to have your friend in the movie.
Yeah,
I get
and
that
that's cool
part,
for
but
him.
for the story of the movie, why is he saying redhead? Like that implies to me that there is something that he needs to cover up, and so he's trying to just make a joke to get out of it. But I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Like, why? Like, I don't even really know why a person would agree to carry you the way he was carrying you across the thing. Like, it's not like you were strapped in. It didn't really seem like it mattered at all what you guys were doing. You were talking openly about what you were doing, so I can buy that he maybe didn't hear them, but it was just like, I don't know. Nothing about it felt like it warranted that moment for the joke. Like,
Oh yeah, no, I think that's what I call a trailer moment.
yeah, and it is in the trailer. Yes.
And so I'm just like, cool. All right, they kept that in the movie. It
Yeah.
and at that point I'm like, okay, yeah, this is dragging. Some comedic beats would be good. And they did they gave me that, and then they gave me the good funny one where it's like we could have just peed on it. And I really like that joke.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. The other comedy thing, and I think we pointed it out the first time, is what doesn't work. The comedy joke thing that doesn't work for me is the supposed bar fight scene where it's like, oh no, he just has like he wants to take a selfie. I'm like, why would you be so antagonistic? Like, why would you front
Yeah,
with your
that
whole
doesn't work for
crew
me.
like you're going to fight a guy? Like
Yeah,
that's
like
what
we
it
talked about that
reads
the first
the
time.
entire
I
time.
remember that. Yeah.
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 And it's just like the entire time I'm like, we need to get over this scene. This needs to end very, very quickly.
I think that's why, like, so the reason I like Jason Momoa in this is that whatever his public persona is, he's bringing that into this movie, and so
Yeah.
that makes Aquaman that much more interesting to
Mhm.
me. And his his public persona isn't one of, if someone approached me, I would immediately be like, what the hell's going on? Like, I know the guy was acting like he's gonna fight him, but like, just when you see Jason Momoa out and that he's like the big jolly giant that's gonna like hug you anyway and cheer
Mhm.
you up, like it, like the fact that he tried to match that energy at first, I was like, this doesn't really, especially since he's already like having a good time with his dad, and like it
Mhm.
feels like he's already at ease, that he would try and just relax the guy instead of like match that antagonistic energy.
Mhm.
It's just, there's a bunch of, and then yeah, I'm just like, oh, you're okay with it now because he has a pink phone, as if that was like the
Mhm.
issue.
I think
It
he's more okay with it because he bought the rounds of beers that they subsequently drank. I think that's what I thought.
no, none of that works.
I know that that pink phone makes it non-threatening, but why would you have a pink phone and be non-threatening when your whole thing up front is being threatening?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The pink phone
It's
edition is the bad thing
it's
for me.
very
Like,
bad. It does not work for
if we're
me.
not getting into what Jason Momoa is like in real life,
Mhm.
it's the inclusion of the pink phone and what they're trying to signify with that. And I don't mean they're
Yeah.
trying to signify he's gay. I'm just trying to say that, like, oh well, then obviously everyone should relax now. As if the rest of the scene didn't already give you the sense that you could relax. There was like,
Yeah.
relax. He's got a pink phone. And
Yeah.
it's
I
like, what are we
like
doing?
I wish what would have been better was if the phone was pulled out and there was like an Aquaman logo that indicated he was a
Yeah,
fan.
that would be a better.
That would be way better than a stupid pink phone that doesn't match any of the energy in that
They're like, don't
scene.
worry, he's girly, so you can be friends with him.
Yeah,
Like,
and I don't like it. It's
yeah,
just like, why would he be head to toe wearing black and biker gang-ish in front with his guys and then have a pink phone? It just doesn't, nothing about that scene adds up. It's silly. It's
yeah.
dumb. I don't like it.
No,
But then
it's
there's other
not
comedy
fun.
beats, mainly the peeing thing. Actually, only the peeing thing that worked for me because,
I'm sure he had, like, I'm sure there's like asides that Arthur has at points that are funny. I just don't
Mhm.
remember. I feel like the strongest one for me was we could have just pissed on it.
Mhm. But I mean,
Because of his delivery, not just because of what he said. It was just like, it felt like a real moment.
yeah. But I mean, you're right to point out the casting in the sense where it has me sold a little bit more on
Yeah,
the character, right? Because I'm like, okay, cool. Because if I think about what Aquaman traditionally I perceive Aquaman as the guy that's super serious, matching the Mera energy. You know what I mean? It's just like, so we have two characters that are not fun. This sucks. And so to have Momoa there being Momoa and not Aquaman, it's just like, okay, this is way more fun.
I mean, I
That's
would
cool.
argue that he's just changed my opinion, and he is Aquaman now. Like I just like that is how I think of Aquaman now. I think he
Fair
did a
enough.
good job of owning that character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to feel about it. It's just for me,
Right.
it doesn't feel like he's just being Momoa, not Aquaman. Because to me, he was hired specifically to elevate Aquaman with his public persona.
Right. And I guess a lot of what I said is delegated to the first act of the entire movie, where it's just like, yeah, of course, you're not taking this seriously. That's your whole shtick for the first act. That makes sense.
Yeah,
But
like he
when he
gets to
does
do
like,
a bunch of stuff in the movie, play a bunch of different things. I would say I
yeah,
don't think it all works, but at least you are like, he cares about his dad. Like that's he's not
oh
gonna
yeah,
like mess around with that. He's not gonna be glib about that. You
mm-hmm.
know that he wants to see his mom again. Like they so there are serious moments for him, but then also he does have like godlike powers, so he is kind
Mm-hmm.
of just like more relaxed, and I actually like that about him, that he is more relaxed because he's what no, like that's what makes, because he's like that, that's what makes that first fight with actual Black Manta in the suit where he gets burnt, like it's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit, like he might have to rethink this. Like
Yeah, he's got to rethink the strategy for
yeah,
sure.
like maybe he can't just like bulldoze his way through this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's effective, but again, that's because of how he gets to play different things, and I'm trying to be precise about the fact that he gets to play different things, and I don't think other characters get to play different things.
I
So
would
you
agree
don't
with
get
that.
the level, you don't get. Yeah, we've already gone through this. Like
Yeah, like
certain things don't land for me because I'm like, well, you're just the same in every situation. So like
yeah, like
versus Aquaman, like Arthur Curry, you're like,
mm-hmm.
I know what he cares about. I know why he's kind of laissez-faire about most things,
Mm-hmm.
because he's you could shoot him and it won't bother him. You could
Yep.
like shoot like bombs at him or whatever. Like it, he doesn't have that worry in his life. So
Yes.
like
There's that's
can be
yeah,
more
he has that
relaxed.
privilege for sure.
Yes.
He can
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, I just it is delegated primarily to the beginning. And that's what has piques my curiosity about what he's gonna do with the sequel. Like what
Oh
kind
yeah, that
of
was the other thing. Speaking of the sequel, I was just
right.
like at the end when he's like excited to be king. I'm like, are you? Because like I don't really feel like that's what you were gunning for in this movie. I thought you were just like, I'm gonna save the world and go away again. But then he's like excited. He's like, this is gonna be fun when he's king. I'm like, what about this made you feel? What about this experience made you feel like this was gonna be fun?
Well, I mean, he clearly processes mommy issues by finding that his mom is alive and
Yeah, that has
therefore not
nothing to do with
processing
being king.
anything. No, it's but the idea of like this is how infantile I feel the whole thing is. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense in terms of the psychology of the character. I'm like,
I don't
now
know.
all his problems are gone. He now feels worthy. He got the trident. Yeah, he sees what other people see. Like I get it. Like the part that sucks for me is like when he's on the boat going to the depth, the trench thing, like, and how he just basically they kind of replicate that scene in Justice League where Wonder Woman wraps the lasso of truth and he fully like splurges out his true honesty and all that kind of stuff, and they do it here without obviously the lasso. He's opening up, he's being vulnerable, but the whole thing is he just dumps on her, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Like it's so weird that yeah, this is clearly your unresolved trauma that you're just laying out, and then to find your mom alive again. Okay, cool. We don't have issues because my mom's alive. It's just
I don't know that that connects. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think.
that's how I see it. It's just,
No,
and
I
then
understand what you're saying, but just hear me out. So
yeah,
you're looking at this like it's a just a documentary and like this can, but we're talking about a movie, right? So your knowledge of that stuff can only go so far in a movie because things still need to connect, right?
oh,
So
I
if
get
you're
it.
telling me that a lot of his issues are coming from the loss of his mom,
his
then the end
insecurities, his
point
not
is
feeling worthy, him
yes.
not
So
caring
then the
about
end,
something, like and he gets
but
all
just
of
let me
that when
finish
he
my
gets
thought.
the
Just let me
trident.
finish my
Okay,
thought.
sure.
So like so then the end point is he finds his mom, and you end on the joy of being with your mom, not and then we fight, and now I'm king, and this is gonna be fun, because that doesn't connect. You can add all you want on like that kind of psychology, but that doesn't make sense when you're telling a story.
I mean, I get that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're telling me he didn't want to be king because that was connected to his unworthiness because he felt like he had abandonment issues because of his mom, none of that is threaded through the movie. None of that. They don't even end the movie so that you feel like that's what was going on. It just felt like Aquaman's king in the comics. Now he's the king, and now he's happy. But like,
Yep.
that wasn't the point. If we're going on based on what you're saying, that
Yep.
was never the point. The point would be he can be with his mom now, and then you can get to see him be with his parents together, and now he feels complete. But that's not what they do. So that's what I'm
No.
saying. I don't think the two are connected in the filmmaker's mind, because otherwise, in a movie where we're acknowledging things are actually thought through, you would have, dovetailed that a bit better if that was present and like a big thing in the filmmaker's mind.
I don't know. Again, like they keep talking about the mom thing throughout the whole thing. Like why he hates Atlantis is because they killed her mom. It was like that's what
Yeah,
what's his
so
face
I'll
tells
let you
her and all
finish.
that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah,
But it's all that they just keep telling you, and I'm like, okay, he's got his mom back. Cool. Now he can fulfill his destiny, I guess, is what they're like. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's so blatantly there and easy that it's just like, oh,
what I'm
okay,
saying, it
cool.
isn't there though, because he at no point do you or you feel this way. I don't think
Yes.
that it's written in a way where you could easily decide he does want to be king, but it's because he doesn't have his mom that he can't do it. I think the whole thing is he doesn't want to be part because he doesn't like the way Atlantis operates.
Yes.
And the point you would make if you want to end on this is going to be fun to be king is that he actively wants to become king so he can change the ways of Atlantis, which isn't what happens. And in fact, they keep making the case that it probably would be best if Mira was royalty and leading, because she can see what's going on. Like when she actually reads the situation with her dad, when she's like, oh, wait, you would never be gullible enough to think that humans actually fired on
you
you.
wanted this too.
Yeah, like,
you just
that's
need a
what I'm
reason.
saying. Like,
yeah.
It's a criticism that I heard a critic say about this time I will bring up a Marvel thing of Moon Knight, where it's like, what's her name, Layla or something? Leia, she becomes a superhero, and you're like, that was never a thing she talked about wanting to do. So that feels like something the writer wanted her to do, as opposed to being a character-driven thing. And that is exactly what happens here in Aquaman, which is at no point is he timid about what he wants, like even to the point of showing him as a kid and being like, where's my mom, where's my mom. That's what he wants. You can have him accept being part Atlantean if he's at war with that part of himself, but to go from my mom's here, so everything's forgiven and now I'm going to be king, that's a huge jump that is not thread through the whole thing. All you can say is that there is a connection between his aversion to Atlantis and his mom thing. But that still doesn't mean, oh, he gets to be king just because like now he's like happy that he sees his mom.
Well, I'm not saying just because he's happy he sees his mom. It's the idea that through all the Atlantean lore, through all that kind of stuff, and his mom has tried multiple times in that, like, I don't even know what to call it, that pocket dimension in the depth of that little pocket universe where she can't escape and she's been trapped there for like that creature being imprisoned there. The dialogue is that like, wait, you're actually talking to me. No one, you can understand me. No one's understood. And it's like Atlantean, and he's like, oh, and the idea that the beast itself would be like the first king was the only one that could talk to me too. Okay, yeah, you're worthy. You're all this kind of stuff. So he gets validated a lot by the people.
Yeah, you're speaking to other people wanting to get, not what he wants.
Yes, I understand that, but
that's the whole crux of what I'm talking about. So
I'm not saying it's well done. I'm not saying it's well done at all. I'm not defending it. I'm saying it's very lazily just but served up on a tray of like, oh, it's mommy issues. It's mommy issues. It's mommy issues the entire time. And the moment it's no longer
maybe it's not
issues.
Just poorly done and not actually what they were trying to do.
I could hold room for that
Yeah,
for sure.
that's all I'm trying to say. Is that
I'm just saying like that's what I
you
saw.
keep saying it's poorly done, but I'm saying I don't think that was what they were trying to do.
Fair enough.
Just yeah, that's all I'm saying is that it didn't seem like that's where they were trying to land.
Mm. But I mean, it's I, I guess the thing that stuck out, if there was subtext in this movie, was the mommy issues and all that kind of stuff for me, right? That would be the subtext, but there's no other subtext in this movie if we're looking for it. But it's the psychology of the characters and
I think it's all
intimate
tied
issues.
to you might be right, it's all tied to mommy issues, but yeah, I think that my point and why I was pushing back was that like not to defend the movie, but to say
Right.
that you might be reading a bit too much into something because that seems like something they would know how to land based on what they're trying to do, even if it was sloppy, because nothing about it felt like that's where they were aiming. And there's nothing about what Arthur is doing that makes me feel like he secretly wants to be king. I think that he would, I think to your point, he is pushing up against something that he feels like he doesn't deserve, which is being a part of Atlantis. But being a part of and leading it is completely different things, especially with his personality outside of that. Like nothing about him is wanting to be a leader. And you saw that in Justice League. You see it in this movie. So there's even more thing of me being like, so what about him is thinking that he's gonna have fun being a king?
Yeah. No,
he wants to be on his own.
I mean, I agree with you based on what they're giving you there. And this is one of the difficulties with this movie. Is again, I said this at the beginning of the recording. I tried so hard to find subtext where I'm like, okay, they're just doing character psychology studies. Let's psychoanalyze the characters. And that's how I got here. Because they kept going like, okay, mommy issues the entire time. Then I'm like, okay, cool. She shows up again. So that would obviously invalidate a lot of the mommy issues because it's like, oh yeah, I didn't realize you survived. That's cool. Like everyone thought you were dead. Like it's like, oops, misunderstanding. Now I get to be king, and that's not strong, and it's not good. I don't like it. I wish they would have expressed the insecurities of him being king more, because
and I'm saying I don't think he had insecurities about that because I think he doesn't. He just wants to be a loner.
Yeah, he just wants to be able to, like, even when he just wants to be able to chill and hang out and do whatever, because even in that first scene, it's like, okay, let's make this quick. I'm missing happy hour. Like he would prefer to just screw around. And I'm like, okay, cool. I get that.
I think that even in a movie like this where we say that maybe not everything, you would have had more hints at this being a story about him becoming more mature and realizing that he needs to lead his people. But since it's literally like the last 10 minutes where he's like, oh, okay, my mom's back. There is no real reconciliation with his people. Like it feels more like now he can have the family unit he wanted back. And then we see a bit of that, but not I don't think do you see the three of them together, or do you just see the parents together?
Oh no, you definitely see the three of them together.
Okay.
Yeah, they have that huge scene in the cave thing where he gets out and he's like, "Oh, I got the trident. I've got my final suit. I got my costume
the dad
upgrade."
And the mom and Arthur.
No. Grown up? No, you don't see the three of them together. No, you don't.
So that's what I'm saying. Like
I wish you see the three of them together. That was one thing I was like, okay, but obviously they were like, the love story is more important to wrap up than the family story, because you know,
so that that feels a bit sloppy. But I don't think they quite landed that ending. And I would still say that the king thing is weird for more than just me missing the subtext of he wishes he could be king but doesn't think. I think they needed to hint at that a bit more than.
I agree with. I 100% agree with you on that. They definitely needed.
But to me, the story was always about. That's why you would choose a character like this in the villain like this, Orm, not Black Manta. That seems like, and I'm happy to have him there, but that just seems like, well, people know Black Manta and they know Orm, so we might as well put them both in there. But if you're having an Orm thing, it's to be like there needs to be some bridge between surface world and Atlantis. So
Mhm.
like on a micro level, you can be like, yeah, and now he's got his family unit back, which is that unification. And then there would be room in the second movie for me to be like, all right, well, now it's working on maybe he realizes he can't just be the loner and he actually has to be a king. But you wrap it up on he's a king and he's excited about it, even though nothing about that like would make me feel like, oh, he wanted this, or like he understands how this is exciting.
Mm. Yeah, it's I I mean I- the idea that, and this is me, my theories and me connecting my dots and all that kind of stuff. So I will say that the idea that his mom was so attached, and like the driver of all the stories of Atlantis and all that kind of stuff, and when they had to leave, but he was so young. You know what I mean? It's and then but the thing that got me was when he was a teenager learning to fight with the with what's his face on the beach,
Volko, yeah.
Volko on the beach, when he breaks down and goes like, does she not love me? Like, why can't I see her? Does she not love me?
Mhm.
And then he finally like tells him the truth after like years of gaslighting him and to be like, no,
Mhm.
not yet, when you're worthy. And I'm like, and that's his fault. That's totally Falco's fault. But like it's the idea that that was like, oh, okay, this is the insecurity, this is the driving force.
Yeah,
That scene really hit
and
me,
to me that's like, you would then be like, okay, this movie is about him learning to trust his mom again, or Atlanteans, but not
yeah,
it's
it's weird.
to me.
It's
But that's what I'm saying, like you've just kind of illustrated my point, is that like
mhm.
it's always been pinpointed as what the hell to my mom, and then
Yep.
processing what happened with his mom and why she was gone and all that. Not, I wish I was king, but also because I didn't have my mom around, that's really made me insecure about that. Okay, she's
Right.
back, good, back to my king thing. That
Yeah.
it didn't ever feel like it was a stepping stone to
No,
him wanting to be royalty. It
it
always
did
felt like
not.
he needs to reconcile the issue of, I have a mom that had to leave me and she was not interested in coming back for me, or that's how he feels,
Yeah.
that
And
she was just not interested in ever coming back.
yeah.
And
And
that always felt like that's what they were going for.
yes. And unfortunately, the character does not actually do any reconciliation or work. He's just like,
Yeah,
oh,
they just have their hug and then he's like, all right, on
my
to the
mom's
next thing.
alive. All right. My issues are done. Like
Yeah.
that's I don't know, like that's the mom thing is definitely a thing that is a through line in this. They definitely cared enough to put it in and all that kind of
Oh yeah.
stuff. That they're all the like I just hate how they just dismissed it and was like, oh, okay, that was the barrier holding him back from wanting to be king, because that's what it makes it seem like. But
I mean,
you're
again,
right.
not to me,
It's
not at all.
fair enough. To me, it seems like that, but it's a huge jump. Like where he lands at the end of the movie, I'm just like, this is a huge jump. It's like, sure, he's worthy of the trident. I know that, but you're right to bring up the fact that I'm like, I'm confused when he says it's, I can't wait to be king or something like that. I
He
wish they
just says
just
it's
kind
going to
of,
be fun. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of just wish they ended on him doing his, what I thought was really, really cool celebration of like the,
Mhm.
where he does his two taps on the boat and then like the raising the trident in the air. I'm like, they could have just ended on that and not painted themselves in the corner with that dialogue of, yeah, I can't wait to be king. Because that's silly. Because now the second movie is like, okay, we have an enthusiastic king. That's fun, I guess.
I mean, you could just meet him as it's caught up to him, like, oh, maybe that wasn't, maybe I shouldn't have been so happy about being king.
Mhm.
I just feel like, yeah, that's too much of a jump in a two
Oh,
and a half hour movie.
yes.
For
It's too
me to
much
be
of a
like,
jump
what?
in one
why?
act.
Why are you excited about this?
Yeah, it's a huge jump in one act. There's no groundwork being laid. You're absolutely right that he actually secretly wants to be king or secretly wants peace or like I think the line that gets him is like how his mom goes like, "Oh, that's the point. You help everyone."
Mhm.
And I'm like, and I think that's what got
Which,
him to be like, "Oh yeah, this is important."
you help everyone, to
Yeah.
me seems like you can't really have jurisdiction of other people when you're like claiming Atlantis as your kingdom. So
And
that
that's what
wouldn't really put you in a position to help everyone.
it's so contradictory. Well, I mean, the helping the surface world in the sense where it's like, hey, We're not going to start this war because I took out the dude for you.
I mean, he could have done that anyway. He's already part of the Justice
I
League.
know, I
He's
know,
already a hero. Like it's just,
I know.
this
I'm
wasn't an
just
origin story.
no, it's not. But it was
Yeah,
it's which is why I'm like, yeah, I think it's still cool that they found a way to make it so that like Atlantis is new to him and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not a strong movie because again, in like when you first meet Orm, they just give you everything. You first meet Orm, it's like, why is he telling the history of why they're meeting there
mm,
to the other guy that they're meeting? Like, does he think he's an idiot? Why is he mansplaining this? Like, it's really weird.
that is not great exposition. It didn't
Yeah.
feel natural. You're right.
Yeah, because it's not like Dolph Lundgren's character was like scoffing at tradition. It was
No,
just like, and then he's like, oh,
we
reminding
find
him
out
of the
later he was
importance.
already on board for this. Like
Yeah, it's just like it's
he's
such
like,
a
whoa, whoa,
weird
whoa!
thing.
You do not need to do any work. I'm already on board.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, but we'll stage the
I mean,
show.
that can give him plausible deniability. But he's
I
like,
think
look, you
that's
don't
what
have
he
to tell.
needs
Yeah, he's like,
publicly.
you don't have to tell me anything. Like, if this was real, he'd just be like, look, just do your thing with the submarine, and
Yeah.
we can get on with this. I don't need any history lesson.
Because the thing that's weird to me about that is like, no, Orm makes a good point. It's just like the surface world has done this. They've been polluting our oceans, and thing like when he goes like polluting our oceans, killing our children,
Mhm.
killing our animals, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's good. Like that was good enough to get Lundgren's character on board to be like, hey, we should go to war. He
Yeah,
didn't
but that
need
guy
to
already
be
knew
like,
it. So yeah,
it's weird, but like I guess it's the idea of like I'm too proud. I'm never gonna call you Ocean Master and all like and which
to
is
your point, all it did
whatever.
was prove like it, he was a bit too showy, and it made
Yes.
someone who was already going to be his ally be like, maybe I shouldn't trust you.
It's kind of like they were well, it's kind of like, oh, we have to stage this whole thing so that we can convince our people. I don't know if it was something like that. But I mean, manipulation was obviously the plan with Orm, but
Yeah,
for the other guy, it's just like I wish there was some acknowledgement of like I knew what he was doing.
there is.
Uh,
That's the mirror scene where he's like, yeah, like we needed something for people to get on board with this.
I
Like
guess,
I already knew that. Like
yeah, symbolic movements,
yeah,
grand
to
scale,
your I
royalty.
thought
I
your
get it.
point you were making was like it's a version of what I was talking about
Mm.
earlier with Aquaman being like, all right, I'm gonna be, it was like, oh, this just seems like stuff the writer needs us to know as opposed
Yes,
to things that the characters actually feel and want and are
yes,
working towards.
yes.
Yeah, that
The entire like every beat of this movie. Oh, we're serving you this beat on a silver platter the entire time. It's so it boggles me. It hurts because it's too simple.
yeah. But the visuals are good, I guess.
Someone pointed out something that I can't unsee now, especially after, and I don't, and I get why we don't do this, but in what's the Wakanda Forever, Talakan.
Mhm.
In Talakan, one person pointed out he liked the idea that it looked like a civilization that worked within water, like they were throwing everything, and then Atlantis was like, yeah, it looks like people just kind of civil like exist in the water like we do on land where they're walking on stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, now I can't unsee that where it's just
I
like,
don't know.
why wouldn't they
There's
just
point
swim everywhere?
there are times where Orm is using his arms the way I would use my arms in the water to move forward and back when he's like monologuing. I mean,
No,
I
I
don't
get
think it's
that.
consistent, but I don't, yeah,
That
I'm not fully on board with that because I
what I
think
meant
that
by the
there's,
civilization of Atlantis, it seemed like it like I like Talakan more. Like he pointed out, it's like they're moving actually like people would move in like all that kind of stuff
well,
when
yeah, a lot of
Shuri
it's
is looking
filmed
at
actually
Talakan.
underwater, but
Exactly, but this
a
is
lot
like,
of
oh,
people,
this is a civilization underwater where they're just walking on. And I'm like, yeah, I that is
yeah,
that's
I
a
don't
little bit
really
weird in
agree with. They
Atlantis.
just walk like it's they're on land, but I
Mhm.
would say that you're not going to please everyone because
Oh no, you're not.
one of the big things that made me raise my eyebrow about criticism against Wakanda Forever was like Telecon just looks so like dark and gloomy, but it's because it's underwater actually. So
Yeah,
like they did prefer how Aquaman portrayed Atlantis.
Yes.
So like you're always gonna get someone shitting on it.
You're gonna get
it's
someone
whatever.
shitting on it. But what I'm gonna point out is, okay, if both civilizations were hiding from each other, which is more likely to hide better? A dark place like Talokan, or where you basically have this whole neon light show of Atlantis? And then I get that they said like only Atlanteans have this dark, like underwater vision, but you would expect.
Also, their bodies are built for it, so people wouldn't last anyway if they were going
Correct.
down there.
Right, but it's so damn bright.
Because I didn't really
It's
think
so
they
damn
were
bright.
trying to hide so much as they were aware that humans wouldn't really be able to hang down there.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% true that they were aware of that, and they were hanging on to hubris in the sense where it's like, oh yeah, our in our golden age, our king messed up, and we still live here.
Yeah,
we didn't move on. I didn't like how they didn't explain that.
I don't think they were trying to hide that much.
No, they weren't. But I mean, like the complaint about Talokan being dark, I'm like, what?
Yeah,
why would that be a bad thing?
I'm just saying, like, there's obviously Telecon feels more tactile and real.
Yeah,
but then that puts certain people off. So
yeah, they can.
You have both versions now. Like people can see Atlantis, people can see Telecon, and everyone can be happy there. There's two versions of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's rate this. Or do you have anything else you wanted to mention?
I don't. I just want to also, just because it feels like we just shat all over this movie, and I do want to say the action scenes were just so much fun to me. They were a highlight in this movie for sure. The underwater fight stuff was cool. Yeah. It was like, oh, this feels like a Dragon Ball Z fight in water, and that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, I do think it's important to say that it's not that I think this movie is completely without merit, even beyond just acknowledging that a lot of effort was put into it. I did think that there were fight scenes that worked. I like Jason Momoa in it. I think that he's engaging enough that I'm like, yeah, I like this version of Aquaman, and it has just become Aquaman to me. Like this, I feel like it's already been reiterated in cartoons and stuff, but like, yeah, I think of Jason Momoa when I think of Aquaman too, so that's something.
That's successful for sure. That's a successful.
I just don't care about
movie.
Aquaman,
I feel,
but at least Jason Momoa has successfully become Aquaman.
It's true. Like I don't care about Aquaman as a character. I just don't. I think he's goofy as a character, and they show you all his powers. I'm like, yeah, this is why people laugh. It's kind of goofy. It's really goofy. He's like, right. They even make fun of him.
Let's rate this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a 6.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, the effort put in, and the fact that like I'm just aware that I just didn't connect with it, which doesn't mean that there wasn't something for everyone. And then,
yeah, it's a movie that's more interested in the visuals than the storytelling, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think deep storytelling was a thing here, and I think that might be a byproduct of the type of serials they were chasing and the type of feel they were chasing.
Yeah.
And the trench scene, that horror scene you mentioned, I thought that's well done because it feels different and it feels more in James Wan's wheelhouse.
Feels genuinely creepy and scary too. Those creature designs are great
because he successfully pulled this off. This movie made $1 billion. It's not like he didn't do a good job. It's more just it was nice. The same way I like the horror stuff that Sam Raimi got to put in his Marvel movie, I liked that James Wan got to do his horror stuff in this movie as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's I mean, you're right. It's a very and this is what I'm at odds with the movie, because like you said, when you think of Aquaman, you think of Momoa now. You think of this movie and the box office success that it had. For all those factors, it's technically a successful movie. But when you watch it, it's a train wreck. It's so weird. It's so weird.
I'll say
I'm glad they failed.
I don't think it is a train wreck for everyone else. As I said, you don't get to $1 billion without it connecting with people.
You're right. It's not a train wreck for everyone else. Yeah. And I think that one of the more important things is this movie was like a fresh of breath air, because it was a movie that was actively trying to have fun versus everything else before it was like, oh, this is like you said, the Snyder like gods among men kind of things situation. I'm like, that's not fun. This movie's actively trying to be fun. So yeah.
Well, there we go. We did it. We revisited Aquaman. Only one more movie left in this DC universe for us to revisit. So whenever we get to it, we get to it. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows such as Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films. We have a new show, which you'll probably have heard by the time this episode comes out, Contra Zoom. So you should check that out on thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, more shows. If you want to hear older episodes of our show, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram at tdfspoiled. And we're on all the podcast platforms. And if we're not, please get in touch with us. But you know the ones. So rate, review, subscribe, share, follow, do all that stuff. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.